Well, hello and welcome to another LinkedIn Live Q&A where I'm delighted to be joined by Graham Orrell, who is the founder and CEO of NorthLink Digital, which is an IT consultancy and development agency based in London and the Tees Valley. So how are you doing, Graham? Thanks for joining.
I'm doing very well. No, hi, Paul. Thanks very much for the opportunity. It's one of my goals for NorthLink Digital this year to get our brand awareness up, especially in the Northeast. So thanks for the opportunity to take part in this interview.
Yeah, no, delighted because as soon as I heard about you and what you were doing, I just had to get you on because I've titled it Northshoring Your IT, which is exactly what you're doing because you have been running your business since 2016. It was under a different name though, wasn't it? It was under Bradbourne Digital, but you've rebranded it as NorthLink Digital. But you've been running since 2016, and you've been very successful at winning projects, IT projects in London and the Southeast, but actually delivering the projects with your team based in the Northeast. So do you want to explain a little bit more about how that's been going?
Yeah, definitely. So Northshoring is a great buzzword. Thank you for that. I'm going to steal that and use that in some marketing material. I normally start with a bit of personal background without wishing to bore everyone to death with my life story. It does kind of inform a little bit how the company started and why the business model is what it is. So if that's all right with you, I'll start with that. So I was born in the Tees Valley, grew up in the Tees Valley, went to university in the Tees Valley. I went to Teesside University and did a computer science degree there. And perhaps showing my age a little bit, graduated in 99, back when there weren't really as many tech jobs available in the local area as there are these days. So I ended up leaving the region just for work, really. And I suppose I could have probably gone to Newcastle or to Leeds or Manchester or something, but I ended up going to London and forged my career in investment banking, in financial technology, fintech, before it was known as fintech, I suppose. Started off as a developer and moved through becoming a tech lead and running projects and running programs and departments. And then, as you say, 2016 arrived, and for various reasons, I decided to try and do something on my own. I'd grown a little bit tired, I guess, of being a senior perm in a corporate environment. You end up moving further and further away from the actual technical delivery, and end up spending a very large percentage of your day doing admin and timesheets and approvals and things that are necessary, especially in a regulated banking environment, but aren't really where my passion was. So I started the company, which is now known as NorthLink Digital. To begin with, it was just me, one-man band, selling my own services back into the same sort of banks that I'd been working at previously as a perm. But I always knew that I wanted it to grow beyond being a one-man band. And specifically, I wanted to build a development team, a delivery capability to actually build these products and implement these projects that banks or any other organization had on the go. And it's challenging, obviously, when you're a new company to win new clients. But we got there, we won the first client, and then I built it out from then. And I guess furthermore, I knew I wanted to build this development capability, but I also knew I wanted to build it in the Tees Valley specifically, for a few reasons, three reasons basically. One is my background, my connections. My parents still live there. I've still got friends there. I've got connections at the university, so I know the area very well, obviously. Secondly, I thought there was a business opportunity to be had, frankly. You wouldn't do anything, I suppose, unless you thought there was an opportunity there to be had. And that opportunity, as you've pointed out, is really to begin with, at least, target London-based or Southeast-based clients and offer them the ability to get work delivered from the Northeast. So from all of my experience in these organizations as a permanent employee and towards the end as quite a senior one, I knew they had challenges with technical delivery. Hiring perm employees is quite challenging in certain skill sets. Certain front-end web development skill set is quite hard. Everyone's a contractor down there. hiring contractors or using London-based agencies and consultancies can be extremely expensive, like you might imagine in the capital. And a lot of organisations, therefore, take the option of offshoring work. It's very, very common to put work out in India or put work out in Eastern Europe. And sometimes it works well. And I've built Eastern European teams myself very successfully for banks. But sometimes it doesn't. And there are challenges, which I'm sure we'll get into later on, with doing that. So I wanted to offer these organisations an opportunity to get the work done in the UK, first and foremost. So they don't have the time zone, language, cultural challenges of offshoring work. And the developers, they're up in the northeast, but it's only a 2.5 hour train ride away if they need to be on site for sprint planning or workshops or whatever. But to be able to do it at obviously a much more competitive price point than some of my London-based competitors. So I'm not the first person to come up with this model, clearly, but I think perhaps there's not too many people doing it, certainly in the Tees Valley. So that's why I wanted to start there. And thirdly, and just as importantly, actually, I wanted to try and offer Tees Valley-based candidates, whether that's people coming from college or from university or people experienced hires moving from other companies, an opportunity to work on what I think, at least, are really interesting projects. I know I'm biased, but I think they're interesting enterprise scale, cutting edge technology projects for really well-known household name, in some cases, clients, without having to leave the area, like I had to 20 years ago. So obviously there are a lot more tech jobs available in the local area now than there were when I had to leave. But some of those jobs, in my opinion, are not the sort of jobs that would have interested me when I was leaving with a computer science degree. So I wanted to bring those sort of jobs back to the local area where I grew up.
Yeah. Amazing. No, well, all those reasons. That's why it's exciting what you're doing. Because have you heard the phrase? Here's another buzzword for boomerangs. So you're a boomerang. So someone who's moved away to have a successful career, but then you've decided to come back to the region, and you brought those skills and the experience and your network back with you as well, which is benefiting the local area, and for all the reasons that you said there. Because you've got the network down there, you can tap into those really exciting projects and bring the work back to the northeastern Tees Valley, and raise the bar really for the region, which is really exciting. So I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but
I have, but I suppose in my own personal case, I'm boomeranging backwards and forwards every couple of weeks. So I tend to spend most of my time. So pre-pandemic and obviously post-pandemic, I spend probably 90% of my time actually down south, trying to win new clients and doing stakeholder management and gathering requirements and all that sort of thing. Would be into London pretty much every day of the week in normal times. But then every couple of weeks, roughly, I'll spend a day or two up in the Tees Valley office. We've got an office in the Boho zone in Middlesbrough, just to fill the team in on what's going on, what the pipeline of work looks like, and obviously take everyone out for lunch and make sure everyone's happy and motivated.
Yeah. So how have you found that then? Like the clients that you work with, do they care where the team's based, or are they bothered?
Well, so this is a very interesting point. So not everyone, but the majority of clients who I spoke to, or potential clients who I spoke to, about this model that I've got, like I've described it, of getting the work done from our Tees Valley offices, were super interested in it, really keen. At times, the only downside that some of them had, or the only reticence that some of them had about the model, was that they preferred somebody to be sat by their side, on the side of their desk, either working very closely with designers or working very closely with business analysts. And they were a bit concerned, I think, that the fact that the developers that they would have on their project from NorthLink Digital would be spending most of their time working remotely. Like I say, 2.5 hours on the train, you can be down and have a workshop. So it's not 100% remote, but it's mostly remote. But funnily enough, all that's gone out the window now with COVID and the pandemic. Obviously, every organisation has had to adapt. Every organisation is now comfortable and more on board with people working remotely. At the moment, obviously, people are working remotely 100% of the time. I'm skeptical, frankly, as to how many organizations will be happy to transition to a 100% remote model. I still think there's a lot of value in showing your face on occasion in the office, for those, especially for junior employees, to get them up the curve quickly. But yeah, all of their concerns about remote working, which was their biggest stumbling block, have gone out of the way. So we're in a stronger position, if anything, as a result of that.
Well, that's good to hear. Like you say, it's obviously it's awful what's happened, but it is an opportunity for an organisation to, like yourself, to because people are a lot more comfortable with the idea of remote working, and it's you're still closer than if they were offshore into India or Eastern Europe. You're still in the same country, and like you say, no language barriers and no cultural differences. But you can just build that in to be together, because like you say, I think you do still need to come together, don't you, from time to time, even if it's just the kickoff for a new project or the you can't replace that feeling that you get when you're all together and you're bouncing ideas and you're collaborating on new projects. But once that's away and once you're up and running, you can just work remotely. You don't need to be sat physically next to someone.
That's right, and we've had it in both directions. We send developers down to client sites and work with them, like I say, for sprint planning or workshops. But we've also had clients come up to our Tees Valley based office. So you can't underestimate the power of getting the clients into your office, and they can see it's a real thing, and there's a team of real developers here. We can whiteboard ideas, and we get pizzas in and have a couple of beers after work, and forming that bond face to face is something that you just can't replicate with an offshore team without a great deal of logistical things to jump through and expense of flying people over and organizing visas and hotels and all of that sort of stuff, which you just don't need. But I mean, that said, I mean, to be perfectly transparent, that although we were very lucky throughout COVID, in so much we didn't lose any clients, we didn't have any projects terminated or anything like that. If anything, we've grown throughout the period. The whole remote working acceptance thing that we discussed for us is a little bit of a double-edged sword. It's great for our business model, but what it does mean is that it can be a little bit harder or more challenging to recruit. Because all of the talents in Tees Valley, in my case, but obviously anywhere for other companies, have now got a whole world in front of them where they can work remotely for companies anywhere across the UK or indeed around the world. And obviously there were companies pre-pandemic that had remote working, so this isn't a new thing. It's just a bigger thing. But that said, if you, as a candidate in Tees Valley or anywhere else, can go toe to toe with candidates all around the world to work at a San Francisco startup, and you can get that job offer, then that's great. That you're at the very top of your game, and best of luck to you. Yeah. But I think there's a place for both of us.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's why I wanted to do this with you and get the word out about what you're doing, because we've talked before today about hiring talent as well, and I've found over the years that there are amazing companies all over the north of England, but they're just so busy just delivering on the work that they maybe don't shout about what they're doing, and people don't know they exist. So then, like you say, the local talent moves away because they think that they have to move away. But if only they knew that there was a company like yours on their doorstep working with some really exciting projects, they would want to work for a company like yours. So it's important to get this message out.
No, definitely. And like I said, back in 2016, I was a one-man band, and we've grown it out now to be a team of 8 of us. So we're still quite boutique or quite niche, but big plans for growth. We've been growing throughout, and big plans for growth this year. But all the way through that period, I was billing my own time out on client projects. Obviously, at the start, I had to, because I was the only person in the company. But as we've grown, I've continued to be billing my own time out on client projects, and essentially building NorthLink Digital out to what it is today in my spare time, in the evenings and on the weekends. And it's a huge burden personally, but it also, there's only so many hours in the day. And I came to the conclusion that I'd grown it about as far as I think I could by doing it out of hours, and really I needed to stop working on client billable projects for a period of time and focus 100% of my energy on NorthLink Digital and building it out. And there's a few different dimensions to that. There's brand awareness and marketing and having the time to do things like we're doing right now, for example, which I wouldn't necessarily have been able to do if I'd been working heads down in a project. Secondly, business development and trying to win new clients and speak to new clients and nurture the relationships with existing clients. And thirdly, and probably most importantly at this stage, is recruitment. And all of these things are interconnected, clearly, but I think it's fair to say that the majority of people in the Tees Valley don't know who we are, never heard of us, don't know who our client base is, they don't know the sort of work that we do. There are other companies in the Northeast whose name is much more well known. And when you're trying to hire people, whether it's from college or from university or from other companies, it's a challenge if nobody knows who you are. I look around at some of the sort of success stories or award winners or press releases or whatever it may be from other companies in the local area, and they're all doing great work, of course. But I look at those things and I think we're doing just as good a work as that. Some of the projects we've delivered are just as impressive and just as exciting as that. Where's our coverage? And obviously that's something that I need to step up to the plate and do now I've got the bandwidth to do it and get our name out there. Yeah.
No, well, exactly. Well, you're doing it, and it's gonna. I think it's gonna ramp up for you in that way. But you say you do have to. There's only so many hours in the day, but you've stopped billing out your time, so you've got more time to spend on all those different areas. And it's quite a common thing, like over the years when I've done the Newcastle Startup Week events and the Scale Up Summit events, and each day has a different theme. That Thursday is always the growing and scaling day. And whenever we've done the physical events, we always have a slightly different audience on the Thursday. It usually tends to be established SMEs who are doing really well for themselves, but they're just a bit stuck and they don't know how to take it to the next level. And often it's owner-manager companies where the founder is still heavily involved in the delivery of the work, so they can't think strategically and they can't work on the brand and they can't work on the marketing and the business development because the company's still so reliant on them. So you're at that point. You're at that kind of pre-scale up phase, I think. Where you're doing all the right things. So it's just being a bit more thinking, okay, well, tapping into existing networks that are already there instead of just trying to do it on your own. If there's already a network or something like this where there's already an audience, you just tap into that, and that's a faster, more efficient way of doing it than doing it all on your own.
No, exactly. And talking of networks, I was lucky enough to be part of something that's going on at the moment called the Peer Network. So I was part of a Tees Peer Network cohort run by my cohort was run by Carrie Nicholson, the leader whisperer. And there's basically just a bunch of business owners from the local area in all different sectors and domains would get together once a fortnight. And just basically go around the table and talk about the challenges that they were facing, issues or challenges. And everyone else could pitch in and ask questions or eventually propose solutions or give their input. And it was amazing to me just how similar all of the challenges were that each business owner was facing, despite the fact that they're in completely different sectors. There was only me doing sort of digital and technology. Other people were engineers and embroidering company owners and all sorts of things, but they all had similar challenges. And as part of the feedback from my peers in that peer network, they helped me sort of put together a 3-month plan, or I called it a 100-day plan for after I stopped billing my time out. What would I spend my time doing? Very easy just to stop billing your time out and put your feet up and relax and do nothing. But I put together this 100-day plan. I've shared it with the team, the rest of the NorthLink Digital team, and got their input and shaped it accordingly. And now they're holding me accountable for all of the tasks on there across those areas, like I mentioned, marketing, business development, and recruitment.
Amazing. So that is really important because, like you say, the network. You don't know obviously you don't know everyone, and if you're focused on your work, but like, just asking another business owner or business leader like how they did something, or it's that's so valuable, like the knowledge that can be shared that way. So how did you come across that? How did you come across the peer network program?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it was just on social media, maybe a LinkedIn post or a tweet from I think Tees Valley Combined Authority were promoting it. I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who else was going to be on it. I didn't know who the facilitator was going to be. It was a decent investment of time, frankly. It was like 3 hours. So it's an entire half day really gone once a fortnight. Mm-hmm. And I was a little bit skeptical, frankly, like you are with these things going in, but I got so much value out of it that I would recommend it to anybody. And all of those organizations on there, we're not competing with each other. We're in completely different industries. So why wouldn't you share best practices, and why wouldn't you try? It's a mutually beneficial thing to share these things around. So yeah, it was really cool.
Amazing. No, well, yeah, and it was thanks to Carrie that we're talking.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. So when I mentioned to her that one of the things I wanted to do was sort of boost my profile in the region, and startups actually is a very sort of good client sector for us. I think we can talk about it perhaps in more depth later on. But when it comes to startups who may have an idea in their head about a product that they want to bring to market, but don't necessarily have the technical background or capability to deliver it, that's where we can sort of step in and take that from an idea to a working MVP. So yeah, Carrie just suggested we get in touch, and here we are.
Yeah, amazing. So thank you, Carrie. And then we'll talk a bit more about we've said a bit about the type of work, but some of the clients that you tend to work with. So you have worked with some major banks, fintech companies, startups. So do you want to talk a little bit more about the type of clients that you're currently working with, but also that you want to work with?
Yeah, I can. So one of the areas actually of our website, which I think is probably the weakest, is the case studies section. And therefore, it's one of the focuses of mine over the next 3 months, I suppose, to try and get that shipshape. We spent so much time delivering projects that we haven't had the time to write them up. So over time, I'll be documenting these things and getting them out on the socials. But yeah, just I guess in brief, we work with clients of all sizes, from multi-billion-dollar revenue, multinational tier 1 banks, all the way down to one-man startups. Across all sorts of domains. So finance is my background. That's what I spent my perm career working in. So a lot of my network is in finance and fintech, and therefore we've got a few clients through that route. But we don't limit ourselves to that. We focus on the technology build, and that's applicable across all domains. So the bank, the project there was essentially a digital transformation of one of their internal processes. It was an approval process that internal project managers would have to go through to allow them to transfer data from one jurisdiction to another. Obviously, they've got to be careful with regulations like GDPR and also internal policies, that they weren't doing anything that was out of policy. And previously, it was an extremely manual process. So we went in there for 12 months, a team of 3, myself and 2 of the NorthLink Digital developers, to help them out on implementing the digital transformation of that, which involved an extremely complex data model. Some of these regulations and policies are multi-dimensional. It was all stored in a very large graph database, and built the interfaces and the APIs to interrogate that data and interpret that data, and then built the digital sort of front-end screens and workflows around that. Staying on the theme of big companies, I suppose, we work very closely with a company who are part owned by the UK Cabinet Office. So they really do a lot of government work. Some of it, I mean, a lot of what we do is under NDA, so it sounds like I'm being secretive, but I just got to be careful about how much detail I give away. But we were first introduced to those guys, and they had us take a look at an existing product, which was an extremely sort of complex code base that already existed, very monolithic. It wasn't, I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying that it wasn't particularly well architected. And then we, I think, made a very good impression on them by how quickly we could get our heads around that existing code base and hit the ground running and start delivering extra functionality on top of that. And as a result, over the last 18 months, 24 months, they've continued to give us more and more work across lots of different products and projects in their company, across different technologies. We've also got a massive client in terms of revenue and name based in Cambridge, who we're doing, again, a digital platform for. But then on the other end of the scale, I mentioned startups earlier. So we built a product and took it all the way through to MVP for a wealth management fintech startup based in Mayfair in West London. So they put together a really strong business team. The founder of that fintech was an ex-investment banker. He'd worked at the same bank or one of the same banks as me, although I didn't know him previously. And they had a really sort of clear vision of what they wanted to offer and what the gap in the market was. And through his extended network, he had a very good feeling that this was going to be a product that would be needed and be used. But they had no idea whatsoever on how to go about building it technically. And if you don't know some of the basics, it's very difficult to even engage recruitment agencies or consultancies because you don't even know what you're looking for. So through a mutual acquaintance, we were put in touch with them. And I did a bit of work on my own to begin with to put together an architecture and a strategy, if you like, a technology strategy and a project plan for building this product out. And then NorthLink Digital dev resources based in the Tees Valley implemented that MVP for that client and got it over the line. And then once we got it to a certain point, we helped the company hire their own in-house CTO and handed the product over. So we're not the sort of company who wants to come in and stick around forever. We want to come in and help you get to where you want to get to and then transition away. Yeah. Maybe another quick example before we move on in terms of startups. We're working right now with basically a sort of home electronics company. They build Bluetooth sensors. So that's where their domain expertise is in electronics. And what we did it last year is it built a mobile application that basically interacts with these devices, scans them using Bluetooth, and gets the information from these sensors and then visualizes it through the application. And then this year we've moved on to the next phase. They got another round of funding, which has enabled them to move on to the next phase of building out a web-based platform, which is going to be very heavy on the visualizations. So it's like a map-based visualization, very attractive looking map, which can show data at all levels of granularity. So it can show sort of almost like county level information, or all the way down to a ward or a street or a house, or even within a house, a particular Bluetooth sensor level information all overlaid on top of each other and aggregated up, and you can drill back down again. So yeah, like I'm trying to get across, I guess, a range of clients from massive to tiny, a range of domains from finance to non-finance. But one of the things I personally find quite interesting and motivating is to work with startups. Obviously, this is Newcastle Startup Week, but to help a founder take their idea, which they're usually extremely passionate about, but can't. If you're a tech founder, different story. You probably know how to build it yourself, so you may not need us. But if you're a non-tech founder, all products these days have some sort of technical side to them. So to help them take that idea from a vision to something that's reality is really quite fulfilling for us.
Yeah, amazing. That sounds like I need to talk to you about Tribes, this new platform I'm trying to get off the ground.
Maybe you do.
But I mean, I love all that because it obviously just demonstrates the range of clients that you work with and the exciting projects that you're working on, but also your expertise as well, because you wouldn't be able to do any of that if you didn't have the experience that you've personally got. You've got like 20 years experience working in in banking and financial services. So some companies might be able to do some of the technical development, but if they haven't got that deep insight and understanding of that world, they won't be able to develop a good product as a result of it. So that's definitely a real strength, a USP, because you've been down there, you've been in that, whether people or not, that is where banking and financial services are in London in the southeast. So you have got that advantage over other people in other parts of the country that maybe don't have that experience.
No, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, we build web platforms, and there's lots of people building web platforms, but I think what we do is quite different to a lot of other companies in the region. You know, if a company's listening to this and is looking to get, you know, let's say a brochureware or marketing website built with a few pages of a contact us and a blog and that sort of thing, loads of companies around in the area who can help you do that, probably much more effectively than we can. But when it goes beyond that and it becomes a more functional digital platform that's kind of driving your business, that's where we kind of get involved. And yeah, like you said, my background, my personal background, when I was back in that banking world, running multi-million-dollar programs, multi-year programs in a regulated environment, I'm used to delivering those big programs, but equally happy and arguably sometimes happier building the smaller, more flexible, more agile products as well.
Yeah, definitely. So do you want to say, you mentioned before we went live about academia, some of the work that you're doing in academia?
Yeah, that's right. So I did mention that probably the biggest challenge I'm going to have this year is recruitment, and we're hiring right now at all levels, junior, mid-range, and senior. In particular, we need to get some more senior developers in the firm who can hit the ground running on client projects from day one. But obviously, we're looking to build that pipeline of talent as well, and that means collaborating and working closely with academia in the local area. So we work pretty closely with Teesside University. Obviously, I went there before, so I that's in my best interest to do that. But also the further education colleges in the local area. So I mean, I've got a few examples. Teesside University have had and continue to have schemes where you can collaborate with them and they sort of part fund it. If you've got a particular business idea or product idea, and you can go to Teesside Uni and use their graduates, either current graduates or recent graduates, and some of their academic professors to sort of shape that product and take it to market. There's funding available and help available, assistance available for that. So we're speaking to them about that. And then some of the FE colleges in the local area, we were part of the pilot scheme for T-levels, which people may or may not be familiar with. It's a fairly new concept where students do work experience at local companies, and we offered that to a T-level student. And it's going beyond just kind of hiring or work experience as well. We're in conversations with a couple of local colleges about working with them to help sort of shape their syllabuses and their curriculums to make them, I guess, more modern and more relevant in terms of both the content that they're teaching, but also the tools with which they teach it. To a certain extent, they're a little bit hamstrung by their awarding bodies. They've got to follow a certain syllabus. They can't just do whatever they want. But within the sort of parameters of the awarding body's syllabus, I think there's scope for them to do a better job, frankly, on equipping students better for the working environment. So there are certain things, and all developers will know this, there are certain things that you do day in, day out. There are certain applications that you use, certain editors that you use, certain tools, source version control tools, certain build tools that everyone just uses day in, day out, multiple times a day. To me, it's certainly, at best, it's a shame. At worst, it's unacceptable that students are coming out of not just the colleges, but the universities as well, not knowing what these tools are, and we have to put them through basically training courses at our own expense to get them up to speed on some of these things. And to be fair to the colleges, they're very open to this, to engaging with employers, to adapt their courses so that some of these gaps are filled, and the students, first of all, can have a better CV and a better profile, and are more employable and marketable, but also so that they hit the ground running on day one. Yeah. But one of the really interesting things, I had a conversation with this week with one of the assistant vice principal of one of the local colleges, was about potentially putting together a coding challenge of some description, which would be a NorthLink Digital kind of branded exercise, kind of along the lines of a project that we would get from a client. It wouldn't be an actual client project, of course, but it'd be similar to a project that a client would come to us and ask us to deliver. Yeah. And it would obviously be pitched at the right level, because it'd be a second-year student, so we'd have to look at what they'd learned in their first year and make sure it was appropriately targeted. But get the students to do this challenge on an optional basis, and see who excels in it, and offer some sort of prize, and the prize would probably be not really sort of monetary, but work experience. So whoever excels at this challenge would get the opportunity to spend, I don't know, the Easter holidays working with NorthLink Digital and gaining some exposure, which obviously is good for them, good for their CV, it's good for the college, and it's good for us if we get early exposure to some of the strongest talent at that age. We can either hire them directly once they've finished their further education course, or keep in touch with them if they move on to university, and perhaps they can work part-time for us, or certainly we can keep in touch and help them through their degree, and they can do their year in industry with us, or whatever. So I think there's a lot of, the Tees Valley in the Northeast in general is one of its strengths, I think, is collaboration. We can talk a bit more about the sort of boho zone in Tees Valley for that. But I've been really impressed by how open and willing to engage employers some of these academic organisations have been, and it's a win-win. Well, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, no, it's really important what you're doing, and it's I think it starts with awareness. So making sure people know that you actually exist, which is what you're doing now, like, and then it's insight. So people can actually understand what it is that you do, and what a day in the life of someone working for NorthLink Digital is like. So that's what you're doing, and like giving talks, giving guest lectures, or giving short webinars or anything like that for the colleges and the universities. And then it's the actual experience, like actually doing it, like what you're doing. So it's the three things: it's awareness, it's insight, and it's experience of actually working on projects or working in that environment or that way, whether it's remotely or in the office. So if you do all those things, you'll have no problem with recruitment, like attracting talent from the local schools and colleges. And the only thing I'd say is, like, obviously Tees Valley, there's loads of great colleges and universities there, but I think any student from the wider Northeast and even the wider north of England would be excited to know that you were here. So casting the net even wider, because it's not far from, like, the Northeast and Tees Valley is not that far really. As long as you've got a car, that's the only thing. It's not so well connected on by the train, but if you can drive, it's not far at all.
No, exactly, and obviously there's plenty of people who are from the Tees Valley area who then go to university in Durham or Newcastle or Northumbria, and after the end of their course, they may be looking to return to the Tees Valley and would prefer to have an employer who's based there. So I definitely cast my net wider. And I was perfectly transparent with the colleges that I've spoken to, that whilst I'm happy to help in any way that I can in improving their course, I'm not doing it entirely altruistically. I'm doing it because I want their students who are coming out of those courses to be better employees and quicker and sooner, and also to raise my own brand awareness. Like I said, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think they're mutually beneficial. We can all help each other out on all of these things.
Yeah, well, they'll be happy with that, because all the colleges, definitely the colleges, the universities as well, that's what they want. They want to be able to place the students into business, into industry. So if you can have that like ready-made route for them into your company, that's everybody's happy there.
And with the best will in the world, the lecturers struggle, I think, and I can fully understand why, to keep in touch with the changing technology landscape. It changes so rapidly that you learn one framework, and almost before you've implemented your first client project, it's legacy, and the next frameworks come along. And whilst the foundations don't change, the algorithms and the data structures and the microprocessor architectures and all the modules that I can remember doing 20 years ago at university, they don't change from one year to the next. Mm-hmm. The actual languages and the frameworks and the tools that you use do change very frequently. And I think recently the universities were operating on a 5-year cycle for their curriculums and their syllabuses, mm-hmm. which is an eternity in technology years. I think they're dropping that down to 3 years now, which will be better. But I think there's an opportunity for them, and for them to kind of teach the basics, the foundations that never change, and they can handle all of that. But then use the likes of us and other employers in the region to, like you said, guest lectures or work-based assignments or project work or whatever, to kind of make sure that the really leading edge technologies and things are covered elsewhere, and you can do a hybrid approach, which is great for everybody.
Yeah, totally. So you're looking to hire at the moment at different levels. I'm just on your website now. You've got a few jobs listed on NorthLink Digital. So you've got full stack JavaScript developer. You've got a head of business development, a digital designer, project support administrator. So it's a range of levels. But you're looking to hire more in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, the company is basically myself and 7 developers. And like we discussed, I'm a developer at heart as well. Although my CTO, Phil, would probably prefer that I kept my hands away from the keyboard these days. But clearly, I can't just have a company that's I can't have if I want to grow to a 20-man, 30-man company, you can't be 30 developers. There's other roles within any organization as you grow that you need to fill. And at the moment, I'm doing all of those roles. So digital marketing, I'm doing it badly because I don't know anything about digital marketing, and I don't have the time or the bandwidth to devote my energies to it. Business development, I'm doing it not quite so badly. Obviously, we've grown to a certain point, but if you want to grow to the next level, I need dedicated people doing that. Account managers, client relationship directors, whatever you want to call them. At the moment, the liaison with our clients is all done either by myself or by the developers themselves, and that's great. I don't hire, and I wouldn't hire developers who weren't sort of comfortable talking to clients, because communication is a large part of the job. It's not all just purely technical. But when it gets to a certain point, you end up spending a larger proportion of the day than you would wish dealing with clients rather than developing code. And at the end of the day, the developers are there to develop code. So we're okay-ish right now, but as we grow beyond where we are now, we're going to need to put in place people whose role it is to handle those client interactions, make sure that they're happy, and make sure that things are getting delivered on time, make sure that expectations are being met. And frankly, to help us extract more value from existing clients. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and he said that a lot of firms operate the way that, frankly, being completely transparently, we operate in. We wait until existing clients come to us and say, can you help us build this product? And obviously the answer is always yes, and we deliver it, and it's all great. But how often do we go to our existing clients and say, we've just delivered this for you, I think you were happy with it, what else is in your pipeline, what else can we get involved in? And hardly ever is the answer. So we need people to help with that. And then project administration, or whatever you want to call it, things like invoices, timesheets, contracts, all of that sort of thing. Guess who does that? Well, it's me again. And again, it's kind of all right because I've kind of got a workflow in place, and I've kind of automated some of the things and whatnot. But it's all right for now. It's not going to be all right if we grow as I want us to grow over the coming months. So yeah, there's certain what I would call like sort of softer rules and non-dev rules, if you like. But then all the money comes in from developers developing products. So we need to hire devs at all levels. It's a constant challenge, actually, and it's not just true of my company or this sector, I suppose, but it's a constant challenge in terms of, do I focus on winning new business or do I focus on recruitment? And you've got to do both in sync and in balance, because if I go and win 10 new clients, either myself or because I just hired some crack sales team, well, that's great, but I can't deliver projects for 10 new clients overnight because my developers are all maxed out. I don't have a team of 10 developers sat on the bench twiddling their thumbs waiting for new work to come in. Can I go out and hire 10 new developers? Well, not if I don't have the clients, because then I'm like adding risk to the business and all of that. So you've got to kind of do it in lockstep with each other, win some business, hire some people, win some business and hire some people. And it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you think, oh God, the pipeline's looking a bit thin. I need to go and win a new business. And then you think, oh God, I haven't got enough developers. And it's I suppose it's that natural tension, and it's a nice sort of tension to have. If I'm being honest, I think that the side of that, which is going to be keeping me awake at night this year, is going to be the recruitment side. I think we're almost out of COVID now. Fingers crossed. We are really out of Brexit now. I'm part of the North East England Chamber of Commerce. When I attend those meetings, everyone is bullish. Business sentiment is really, really picking up. Everyone is super positive about this year. Our pipeline of work is really strong. We're turning work away because we're maxed out. So yeah, recruitment is going to be the biggest challenge. So I guess anybody listening to this who is within commutable distance to the Tees Valley and wants to come and work on some cool projects, definitely drop me a line.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you want to work there, or if you know someone else that wants to spread the word, share this video and tell anyone to get in touch. So it's I mentioned it before, but the website's just NorthLink.digital.
It is.
And then they can find out the live vacancies on there, and I'm sure there'll be more to be added as well.
We're also small enough that we're kind of flexible. I find it hard to write job descriptions for non-development roles. For developers, it's very easy. I know the sort of person we want. I know the sort of skills that we're looking for. For the non-dev roles, to a certain extent, we can be flexible because it could be that you hire a senior person who can do 2 or 3 of those sort of previous tasks that I mentioned, or it could be that you hire at a more junior level, maybe even like apprentice level, and you hire an individual person, a digital marketing apprentice, for example, or a business administration apprentice, and they focus on that alone. So if somebody looks at a job spec on the website and thinks it's not quite right, it's not quite what I'm looking for, still drop me a line. If nothing else, it's a new connection on LinkedIn, and connections are good. Well, one thing I've noticed about people in the Northeast is they don't use LinkedIn as heavily as people in London. So I would definitely encourage people to get on there and build their networks ahead of time before you're looking for a job, because you need those networks when you are looking for a job. And just hit me up and connect, and we'll have a chat, and we'll have a coffee, half an hour chat. If it's not a good fit, you've made a connection. If it is a good fit, who knows, you could come and work for us.
Yeah, exactly. It might be worth just putting on, like, you've got your different profile, different job descriptions. It might be worth having one just for open vacancies, just to get in touch, because for those reasons, there might be people looking and saying, oh, well, that's not quite right for me, but they sound like a great company I want to work for. So maybe just make that clear, explicitly clear, that you're open to speaking to people. And I know in the past when I worked for Sage many years ago, right, there was some really senior people there who actually they kind of got as far as they wanted to in that company.
Yeah.
They wanted to work for a smaller company that was on the rise, because they wanted to go through that whole experience again of helping them grow to a much. So I reckon there'll be a lot of people working for bigger companies in the Northeast and elsewhere, but they have connections to the Northeast and Tees Valley who want the challenge of being part of that, and you'll obviously benefit from that expertise, and they'll be willing to take a pay cut as well, because money's not the main driver for them. They've already made the money, but they want that experience of going again. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah. I think you'll have no trouble attracting people like that as well.
Yeah, I think when people speak to us and they hear the sort of work that we're doing, obviously if it's of interest to them, it's not of interest to everybody, but I think it's interesting work for well-known clients. When they get to speak to us, it's interesting to them and they're attracted by it. The problem is finding the people to speak to. Like I say, the lack of brand awareness up till now has been a challenge. And the fact that the recruitment process, shall I say, is different in the Northeast than it is in London. I mean, I've spent my whole perm career basically hiring and building dev teams. I know how it works down there. It doesn't work that way in the Northeast. People don't use LinkedIn as heavily. Like I say, recruitment consultancies, you find some who know the Tees Valley area very well, but don't know technology very well, and they admit that themselves. And then you find people who know the technology and digital market very well, but they don't necessarily know the Tees Valley area very well. They're based up in Newcastle or Leeds or Manchester. Yeah. So to find the right person who knows both is tricky. But recruitment agencies get you so far, but ideally we want to grow organically by word of mouth. We're getting to the size now where our networks are such that we know a lot of the people in the local area who are doing the sort of work that we're interested in. So it's just a case of making sure that when they're thinking about making a move, either because they're bored or the salary isn't what they want it to be, or the company's downsizing or whatever it is, whenever they're looking for a new role, they need to think of NorthLink Digital first, rather than it being an afterthought or not thinking of us at all.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, you just got to keep doing what you're doing and just make it clear. Just keep telling people that you're hiring. Just like I said, make sure that the brand that is visible and you're visible and you're getting stuck in, which you are. And then just make it clear that you are looking for great talent to join you. One thing I was gonna say is, like, at the minute, like, Tees Valley is like hot property right now. There's a lot of focus on it, government, national government focus and investment going into the region. So that, I think that's going to benefit you as well, because the attention is on this part of the country. So have you noticed anything? Or are you just starting to notice that people are a bit more aware of even the words Tees Valley?
Yeah, no, there's a massive buzz about it at the moment. Like you say, I wrote a LinkedIn article recently after the budget, outlining for those people who may not be in the area, because a lot of my network isn't in the area, just what was announced in the budget for the Tees Valley. So I mean, just to recap here, there's the Freeport, which has been announced, which is going to be massive for the area. Maybe not necessarily in our sector, but in some of the sectors that have been shrinking recently in the area, it's going to be fantastic. Treasury North coming to Darlington. Obviously, I would have preferred it to come to Middlesbrough, but perhaps Darlington's the second best option. So I think not just in terms of the jobs, I think it's 750 jobs moving to the area, which is going to be a great boost economically, but just in terms of having those decision makers from what is essentially the most important department of government being based outside of London and furthermore being based in the Northeast. I really hope that they don't just ship 750 London-based civil servants up to the Northeast, or even worse, have them commuting every day. I hope they hire local people over time and staff that department with people who understand the Northeast. And we should hopefully find that some of the decisions that are made in the future in terms of government policy are much more aligned with the interests of the Northeast and not so London-centric. But then other things besides, right? I mean, both Middlesbrough and Thornaby, which is where I was born, where I grew up, received, I think, £20 million each. £20 million for a town like Thornaby is a colossal sum of money. And if they target that spending in the right areas, it's going to make a massive difference to the town centre and to certain sections of housing and goodness knows what else. But then outside of all that, it's not just the money and what's been announced in the budget. It's the sort of personalities and the drive in the local area. I'm not sure about how well known they are up like in Newcastle or outside of the area, but you've got Ben Houchen, who's the mayor of Tees Valley, who's doing amazing things, and obviously has been fundamental in the Freeport and Treasury North.
Yeah.
And then Andy Preston, the Mayor of Middlesbrough, whose vision for the digital sector in particular, and growing that, and competing nationwide, is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's new buildings going up all the time. Boho 8 is just approaching completion, and then Boho X is coming shortly after that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the buzz and the drive and the optimism is unlike anything I've known in my lifetime, really. And obviously, I was born there, so like talking 4 decades now. It's really, really fantastic, and I just hope that all the companies and all the colleges and the university and so on can all work together to try and fulfill some of that potential that's just on our doorstep.
Yeah, no, it's hugely exciting. I think that like the massive opportunity for everyone, and like the limelight is on the area. So, well, great things are happening already. And like, I mean, despite the name, Newcastle started with it. Everything that I do or have been doing for years, and the event was meant to be all about the whole of the Northeast and Tees Valley. So for me, the Northeast region includes Tees Valley, but I know sometimes politically it's seen as Northeast and Tees Valley as 2 separate things. But I know that me and many others, even though we're like physically located in Newcastle or Gateshead or the parts of the northern Northeast, I think everybody looks to Tees Valley and looks at Ben Houchin and Andy Preston and like wishes that they had the equivalent in the northern part of the Northeast as well, because like I say, the ambition and the drive and the ideas and the are really, really exciting, really inspiring. But that just shows that when you've got that vision, but you've also the willingness to work with politicians in London, doesn't matter what your political persuasion is, if you're willing to work together collaboratively and you've got exciting ideas and passion and belief, and you can back it up with like evidence to show that there is something genuinely of value here, then you can do amazing things.
Yeah, a large part of it, I think, is just the positivity, the positive outlook. I mean, for far too long, like you say, leaving politics aside, but party politics aside, politicians in the Northeast, I just think, have been too negative. They're always whinging and moaning about their lot, and London have looked us over again, and we've missed out on this, we've missed out on that. Well, instead of sitting there crying about it, why don't you get on and do something about it? And that's what Ben and Andy Preston have done, and they're reaping the rewards now, and we're all reaping the rewards. And I guess just one other point, aside from economics for the local area, one thing that I really like about the Boho zone of Middlesbrough in particular, but I guess the Tees Valley and the Northeast in general, is the collaborative nature of everything. You don't really see that. Let's be honest. In London, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and everyone's trying to eat everybody else's breakfast. But in the Northeast, people share workarounds. We don't pretend that we do all things for all men. If somebody comes to us with a particular type of technology project and we're not experts in it, we'll pass it on to somebody else in the local area who are much better equipped to do that, and they do vice versa. And we've done it both ways around. We've done some work for another consultancy based in the same building because they were maxed out. They didn't have the bandwidth to do it, so we went and helped them out, and vice versa. When we're maxed out, we'll happily pass on work to other people as well. And then not just on a work front, but on a socializing front, there's so much going on. There's been online poker nights, and there's drinks events, and all sorts of things. It's a really collaborative, sociable place to work.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it is. It's that community grassroots focus, but we're focusing on the whole ecosystem, but also not. So it's supporting the local, but thinking nationally and internationally. There is definitely that sense of real ambition in Tees Valley, which is exciting to see. And the whole of the Northeast and Tees Valley is going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
It's great that you're part of that as well, and all the things that you're doing, because I think you're going to be a major part of that going forward.
And then we've got the transport links coming as well. Direct trains from Middlesbrough to King's Cross is going to be a massive boon. So I quite like the trip up, to be honest. I get some time to myself to do some work on the train and stuff, but having to change at Darlington or change at Eaglescliffe or change at York or whatever to then get across to Middlesbrough, just the extra half hour or whatever it adds onto your journey, it's a bit of a bind. The Boho zone is very, very closely located near Middlesbrough Station for those that aren't aware. So to be able to pop up from London and get off the train and walk straight into your building it already makes half an hour difference, but psychologically it makes a massive difference. Getting clients up and us going down to visit clients, really, really big difference.
Yeah, amazing. So what would you say again if people want to know more about you or want to talk to you about how you could work together, not just if they want to look for a role to work for you, but if they want to work with you on a project. So it's NorthLink.digital. That's the website, not .com, not .co, just NorthLink.digital. I'll put a link underneath this as well. And if people want to just connect with you on LinkedIn, is that okay?
Yeah, exactly. We've got a company page, obviously, on LinkedIn, or just hit me up on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get in touch initially, and then we can have a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams or anything else if people want to.
Right. Amazing. All right, we'll leave it there. Really, really enjoyed talking to you today. So thanks again, and good luck, because like you say, I think it's really exciting for you and the Tees Valley, that what you're doing. So we'll end it there. All right.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.